Hey guys, it's Tuesday evening and we are here for another Speedway chat show. And tonight we have the legend that is Bruce Penhall. How are you, Charlesy?
I feel old, Jerry. It's my birthday. Did I mention that to you? It's my birthday.
You've never mentioned it. You've never mentioned it once. So if anyone
new
out
studio.
there, yeah, lights. We've got lights, and you've also got a ring light as well to light up your face, haven't you?
Oh, and the forehead. What was his name on Facebook that mentioned he was 50 years old because of my forehead? That's naughty. That is, Jez. But backstage, Bruce Penhall reckons I got a 5-head. Haven't heard that before, have I? Oh God. No, yeah. I'm good, mate. I've had a wicked day with the family. Took a day off work. Got a present that I've wanted for ages. Got a Mavic DJI drone because I'm into me photography and clips and stuff. So I've been having a bit of a fly that today. Spending time at home with the family. It's been amazing. Thank you for posting on Facebook, mate. I don't think I've ever had that many birthday wishes. It was.
I'm sure we can get a few more. If anybody wants to say happy birthday to Shane.
Oh God, yeah. No, it was, and a little bit of banter on there for anyone that knows me. They know I'm all the fours, 44 today, a day older than yesterday. So yeah, no, thank you very much. It was good, and been looking forward to tonight's show. What a guest! Like for me, Bruce Penhall, growing up as a kid, the pin-up boy. World champion, controversy, that he had everything, didn't he? Acting, so it'd be nice to get into his brain tonight. Be good, and I know a lot of the ladies are pretty excited about it too. Hazel, I know. Holmes, I don't think if you're watching Hazel, I know you're watching. She works at my local Tesco's, and she was so excited for tonight. So there you go.
Yeah, we have got, before we go into the chat with Bruce, we have got a message here from a friend of yours from Australia. Oh. So I just quickly pay.
Oh, okay.
Hey Shane, hope you're keeping well, mate. Just a quick one to wish you a happy birthday. You're a top bloke, mate. Funniest bloke I've ever met, I reckon. Funniest night was that one at Newcastle where you made your big comeback. Never laughed so much in your life. You lay down in the pits just pissing your pants. Anyway, mate, happy birthday. Have a great day. All the best, yeah. Catch up.
Blonde bombshell, Mickey Poole. Oh wow! Oh yeah, my first international rider I spent it for. What an absolute legend! Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks for that, Jez. That's
so what happened in Newcastle?
All right, so Bruce Penhall's on. Let's get him on.
Well, what happened with you in Newcastle, Charlie?
Oh God, Mick. I used to have a bit of a skid, didn't I? At no tremendous level, but I used to enjoy it. And then I used to be on the tools for Pooley, and he said to me, riding at the showground, and he was riding some elite class, because he's awesome. And he said, "Do you want to have a skid on one of my bikes?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem." So drove to Newcastle, and then the old return nerves kicked in, mate. I crumbled. I was nearly sick. It was, it just got the better of me. Had a good go, as best I could, but always better on the tools, I think, mate. There you go. That's all.
There we go. So just before we start, I just want to say thanks to everybody, as always, for all the comments, all the likes, shares. It really helps, all the way through the show. If you want to like and comment and stuff like that, it helps push this out. So as soon as you like and comment on here, it will tell your friends that are also could be interested in the show that you're watching, which then obviously spreads the word, and that's how things go viral. And we've done amazing so far, and we want to keep that going. We've got something really exciting to talk about at the end of the show. So I think we're ready. Do you want to introduce him?
Oh, you go on. You did all the groundwork.
Like always. I thought that's the bit that you do.
yes, the only bit. I don't talk too much. Look, very exciting guest tonight. A 2-time champion of the world in Speedway, a movie star, an actor, a genuine nice guy, the original pin-up boy of World Speedway, Mr. Bruce Penhall.
Easy on that Hollywood.
There he is.
I am not a Hollywood star.
Well, Bruce, a lot of our followers beg to differ, and there's a question coming up from probably arguably one of the greatest talents to ever put his right leg over a speedway bike. Asks you a question which relates to Hollywood. So everyone mentions Hollywood, Bruce. But firstly, thanks for coming on and having a chat to the British public and everyone around the world. How are you, and what have you been up to?
No, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. And it's I'm not very good at the podcast. I did one with Greg Hancock, and I'm kind of old school. I'm actually really old, so I actually had to get this monitor out of one of my employees' offices because I don't have a camera on mine. Because when I look at myself on these things, it scares the crap out of me. So. I'm kind of learning on this stuff, so bear with me. But thanks for having me, and it's good to chat with everybody else as well.
Yeah, for sure. Should we go straight in with that question you were saying about Childsy?
Yeah, why not? I
got
think
it here.
I love it. It's from Darcy Ward, no less.
Yeah, so Darcy's asked, after a look back in life, I have no doubt you would have loved to keep racing, but chased a career acting. Was that a mistake? Was it money driven? And who doesn't love racing bikes?
It's great to hear from Darcy. That's very cool, Darcy. So, I never wanted to race all my life. When I moved away from California to Britain, it was tough for me. I missed my family. But, I was certainly focused on what I wanted to do. And thanks to a lot of other people that kind of directed me, I wanted to become champion. So I had been in England I raced in America for 5 years prior to that on the small tracks. A great place to train. The fans are fantastic back in the mid 70s. Jesus, does that make me what?
When
Nobody
I was born.
was freaking hardly born back in those days, right? And I was like 16 to 18 years old. So I learned a lot. I loved it. And then I was invited to Ivan Major's troop team a couple of times. And of course, Barry Briggs. Went and experienced racing, in Australia, in New Zealand. Actually went to quite a few other countries. And I kind of realized that Speedway was much larger than I ever expected. So I had a lot of guys like Peter Collins. I love PC to death. He's such a great guy. I got to see him about 3 months ago. Went back to the UK for Betty Bull's funeral. Unfortunately, loved her and Eddie Bull to death too. And so PC kind of guided me, and Dougie Wire, and they said, hey, I think, if you want to become champion, you need to move back here to the UK and get on a team. I said, I'd love to. Actually went back to see the 1976 World Final at Wembley. I went with Chris Pusey. Chris Pusey back in the day was great. He did so well in America as well, riding for Ivan in that world team that he had back in those days. So, I went back to England. Our racing still 50 nights out of the year. And, are you kidding me? I'd ride some nights 27, 30 days, 30 nights in a row. That was including, Germany on the weekend, racing long track, a little grass track. And I just loved it. And I learned so much. And I became world champion at Wembley in 81, which was, something a lot of people can't say. And yeah, there's a lot of luck to it, but you have to be driven. You have to have this huge heart. You have to want it really bad. And I did. And I had such an amazing night that night. And then again, I won it again in 1982, but I'd been to England for 5 years. And I thought, I miss being in California. I had this huge opportunity to work. Is that a dog? Is that your dog right there, Childsy?
Yeah, that's Nala. My wife just got home from shopping, and Nala just got a bit excited. Yeah, that's Nala.
I'm teasing. That's okay. we usually have dogs in our office too. So anyway, you know, I had this opportunity. I tested for tips, and they actually wanted me to play Eric's part the first time I tested. And but I was supposed to quit racing 2 months prior to the 82 World Final. And I said, I can't do that. I mean, the World Finals in America for the first time ever. And, you know, it was the biggest thing in my life to try to win back to back. And of course, in my own country. So they said, okay, thanks. Because prior to that, I was testing as just a special guest on the show. And so once I said, no, I can't come back and I can't start now. They said, okay, we'll contact you later. Well, they did. They contacted my manager and said, you know what? We're going to write a special character for Bruce, for you, and you could be a regular on the show. And, you know, for me, it was a huge opportunity. Did I know anything about television? Hell no. Other than all the interviews I've done with sports commentators and Speedway. But, you know, I had to drive to London like about every other week to work with a dialogue coach because I couldn't remember the dialogue because they'd send me scripts to just try to test. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But they said, don't worry, we'll work with you. And so I said, okay, great. I'll take that part. But I'm going to keep racing after the 82 World Final. I'm going to keep going because this is my life and this is what I want to do. And they said, okay, well, we'll try to work that out. However, the insurance is so high if I keep racing, and if I was to miss a day on the show, it could really affect that episode money-wise. Not because I was on it, because of money. So they said, we can't have that. So, you know, I had to think about it a lot. And it was literally probably maybe 4 days prior to the 82 World Final. I said to my manager and my family, I said, if I win this thing, I think I'm going to retire on the podium. And that was another dream for me. You know, I could go out as world champion and never race again, even though it was going to be really difficult. I didn't know how difficult it would be until after I did retire. So on the podium, I mean, they'd written a script that I was to win the championship, which was like a crap ton of pressure on me, you know, that night. And Estrada, Ponch, and everybody, they were in the pits, and they had 27 cameras all over the Coliseum. You know, I was focused. They would ask me to go stand by one of the other actors. I said no because I was so focused that I couldn't be involved with that. But it was a huge sort of pressure night for me. And then I actually won it. And I retired on the podium, and like the next 3 months, 4 months just kicked my ass. It was the hardest thing in the world, even though I had the show that I was working on, you know, 6 days a week, and my hours were 12 to 14 hours a day. And that was great because it kept me, you know, kept my mind on something other than I want to race again. So long question that Darcy asked. 15 minutes long. I apologize. But I kind of give you the story of how it happened.
Yeah, it's great.
And on the Chips thing, like I don't know. My biggest memory of Chips was I used to idolize the show. I just there was something about it. I used to get home from school, and back when I was a kid in Australia, there was 3 channels: 7, 9, and 10. But as a kid, you don't understand that. I used to get home and I had to choose between Chips, Dukes of Hazzard, or the Flintstones. They were on at 3:30 after school. And it was a bit of a dilemma, but I could never understand how my mum actually got what I wanted on the TV. I didn't understand channels. Look, 8 times out of 10 it was Chips. A couple of times it was Dukes of Hazzard, but I idolized it. And I used to go to the Sydney Royal Easter show and they used to have the show bags, and you used to get a Chip show bag and the police helmet, and who didn't dress up their push bike as a police motorcycle? And at the time, it was an award-winning TV series. So for you to be a part of it, as we were speaking earlier, you love racing bikes. You just done bikes, Bruce, and then to be on such a worldwide program for you must have been like a touch yourself sort of a moment.
It was huge, and Eric Estrada had a lot of people that disliked the guy. He was an absolute angel to me. I struggled with it. You'd have a close-up shot, you'd have a master shot, and I never knew any of this. And every time you delivered dialogue, you had to match that every single time. I had no idea. He would work with my dialogue and stuff. And so was the rest of the cast. I mean, because I was a racer. But the funny part about Chips was, for me, I kind of thought that they hired me because of my motorcycle experience. But because of insurance, they would hardly let me ride the motorcycle. In fact, we have a huge magazine here. It used to be called Cycle News. Like the first time I was on the show, because of focusing reasons, they would mount 3, back those days, there were 1,100 Kawasaki's, the Chips bikes, 3 of those bikes on a trailer, and the camera truck would tow you. And so they showed that on Cycle.
Oh.
We've lost him
again.
We've lost him. He'll be back. It's Bruce Penhall. Of course, he'll be back.
I was literally as we was talking. Then I was just looking for a clip that I found the other day from Chips where they had a
news, and it's from.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
Oh, he's back. I don't think you know he was lost.
There
we go.
Lost you.
That. You're back, Bruce.
So I was kind of like the guy that rode the trailer, more the motorcycle. It was good, man. I was so fortunate, and I worked in the industry for about 16 years afterwards, and finally realized that, it really wasn't for me because.
Me that can't hear him?
I can hear him.
Oh, yeah.
I can't hear him. Okay.
I can hear you guys.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay. Sorry, carry on. You was in the industry for 16 years.
Yeah, so 16 years. I did a lot of sports commentary as well for snow ski events, for motorcycle events. I did quite a few guest spots. I did a couple of what we call low budget films, where they were quite big in say Japan, but not so much anywhere else. But I loved it, and I learned a lot.
Okay. Darcy also asked another thing. He said, "Do you ever keep an eye on the sport since you've retired? And who's your favorite rider?"
I try to, and I really kind of dig the GP series, and I follow it as much as I can. I'm pretty busy on the weekends with the company and with the growth of it. I'm on my phone a lot, or I was quite a bit. I'm kind of stepping back a little bit now, and it's been great. I have to say my favorite rider is still Greg Hancock. I remember him when he was literally this big.
Yeah.
So no, Grint's a great guy. I love Grint. As far as back in the day, I'm a huge fan of Barry Briggs, a huge fan, of Obi Fundin, Ole Olsen, and of course Ivan Major, and one of my good friends still, like I said, is PC.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick little short story on PC, really quick. Okay, I'll try to make it quick because I talk too much. I know that. So I go
fine. Talk away.
About 3 months ago for the funeral, like I said, stayed with PC and Angie, and I said, "Hey, PC, is this cell phone that I've been calling you on?" Because I'm talking about I'm kind of lame with all this stuff, and I've just gotten into Facebook. because I'm old school, just kind of learning it. I don't have a cell phone. I said, wait, PC, you don't have a cell phone? He says, no, I don't have a cell phone, because I hung out with him for 2 days, and we went to a couple of good restaurants and the pub, and of course the funeral. He does not carry a cell phone. I said, okay, well, what's your email address? Nope, don't have an email address either. I said, you lucky bastard. I wish I didn't have a cell phone and an email address, So, but I got to spend really quality time with him. It was really cool, and of course Angie, they were great hosts to me, and the unfortunate time for Betty Bull's funeral, but PC is still one of my we travel a lot on the weekend to Germany, Denmark. We spent a lot of time together, and we're rivals as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. I'm going to see why Charlesy, is your microphone working now? Can you hear me?
Bloody.
Can you hear me?
I can now. Yes.
I can hear him.
Yes. And can you hear Bruce?
I don't know if I want to hear him though.
No.
Oh, you can't hear Bruce. Right.
No.
Okay. Close all your apps in your phone, like we said before, and then go out of the chat completely and come back in, and I'll add you back in a second. So, so we've had loads of questions. Probably the most amount of questions we've had on any of the Speedway chat shows so far has been for you. We've had a lot of people asking if they could ask Bruce if you remember me from 1982 and they met you in the centre green of Craiglee and things like that, which we're going to try and leave those ones out because there was a lot of those, and it was a while ago now, 38 years ago, is that right? Yeah, 38 years ago. So we'll go with this is a good one. So that one first, sorry. So Bruce, it was well documented, like you said before, about the 82 World Final. Was the start of your acting career thing. What was the situation if you didn't win the world title? Was an alternative script for that?
I think so. And then you always have to remember it's Hollywood, so they can make the story like they want to make it. Of course, they want to try to keep to reality as much as possible. But I think that they would have, because even they showed like coming into the pits, even though we staged that 2 weeks after the event, we had a lot of, they made the pits identical. We were at the Coliseum to shoot the show afterwards. And I don't think it would be very hard for them to change the storyline. It wouldn't at all. It would have definitely changed it, because I remember back in those days, the only thing that wasn't real true about Chips back in those days, the stunts were incredible back in those days. You have to agree to that. They were. But the thing is the only thing that they could not do on the show, the officers, they could not wear real guns. They were rubber.
Right. Yeah.
So that was something that wasn't a reality to the show, which was a safety reason. But they really stuck to script as closely as they could. And I think that they would have changed the storyline. I don't think they would have left it as if I didn't win, they would have changed storyline for sure. Yeah.
Okay. We've actually got, this is a shot that I found it on the internet. Use this one here. And just to show like the stunts themselves. So here we go. It's this one here.
Yeah, that wasn't me either. That's all my leathers and my helmet. It wasn't me though.
I don't care if you're a stunt rider or not. That hurt.
Oh my God. I would see those guys jump those 1,100 cowies over like 2 or 3 cars and land the things. I'm going, I can't do this crap. Are you kidding? There's no freaking no thanks.
Yeah, I have some friends that do some. I've done some work with some stuntmen before in my previous career, and some of the things that they talk about, and like they'll say with the stuntman that they get the last say. This is the most interesting thing I knew about the stuntman world, as the stuntman gets the last say. So if he does the stunt and he doesn't quite land it how he wants to, he can turn around and go, no, I want to do it again. And he gets paid the same money every time he does that. So like, for instance, they could do the same stunt and they get these endorsements every time they do it. But the stuntman is above the director when it comes to saying, yes, I'm happy with that stunt. So
right.
You know, there's some crazy stories of things have gone wrong in the stunt world. It's
I'll tell you the other thing, Jerry, too, is that was one of the reasons why Chips was, well, I always said the reason it canceled was because I went on the show, right? But stunts are so expensive and costly, and they had all these new shows coming in that didn't involve a lot of stunts. That was another reason that the show canceled. Because it was so expensive to produce, you know, and there was 19 shows a year, man, and that's what made really Chips. Yeah, it was a great. Ponch and John were great, but the stunts back in those days were, you know, an eye opener for everyone.
Sure. We had Greg Hancock on the other day, and you know, and he was saying the one thing that he feels that is missing from his career was getting to ride a Grand Prix, or you know, like the days of the World Finals and stuff like that at home in the US. You know, obviously you got to do that. You know, how was that without the added extras of having all the TV crews there for Chips and all the rest of it? But like walking out in front of your home crowd, and it was the only time that was to happen, and you won, obviously, like that must have been like unreal. Even people with a career like Greg's hasn't got to do that.
You know what? I've been asked that question a lot. Do you prefer the one-off World Championship night, or do you prefer the GPs? Well, there's guys that I used to race with, like Dave Jessup. He was an incredible racer. He always seemed to have bad luck on the night. There's a guy in my eyes that probably should have been world champion, but had bad nights on the one-off. I think that you can make, I mean, don't get me wrong, even in a GP series, you can't make a lot of mistakes, but you can have a bad night and come back the next 10 or 15 nights and still win the GP series.
Yeah.
One-off nights, I mean, you had to have perfect 4 heats, and your 5th heat, you had to be not far off. So you really are going to end the night on 13 or 14 points. So yeah, do I miss the one-offs? And the night at freaking Wembley for me in 1981, and that atmosphere, I just can't explain it, how it was, because I mean, I look back at it now, and I'm 63, and you know, I was used to the supporters being so strong in England, and of course Europe. I mean, the banners and the air horns, we didn't have that in America. We had good support, and we had, 5,000-7,000 people a night, and they were great. Don't get me wrong, but the air horns, and as loud as it was, that night, I mean, I was so focused that, I mean, all I could think about is winning races. But I look at it now at my age, and I'm not kidding you. I even play Wembley back now and then, and it was absolutely unbelievable that night. The following year at the Coliseum, a different sort of pressure. Yes, it was in my home country, never had been there before, a one-off. I couldn't make many mistakes. And of course, I wanted to win it back-to-back for a second time. So the pressure, and that night was huge, but I don't think anything in my eyes could replace Wembley. I haven't been to Cardiff, okay, and I hear Cardiff is amazing as well, but and I've seen a couple videos. And of course, this is my point of view because I lived it and I haven't lived, the other tracks. What I like to see when I went to Torun, oh my God, Poland, it was freaking behind the Iron Curtain. I mean, it was radical to cross over and go race there and us back on a plane. And when I went there with and Joe Parsons to get to watch, I was amazed how cool Poland looked. When I flew in, there was freaking high rises. I've never seen high rises in Poland when I was there. I mean, it was great to see. It was great for me to see. It really was. And I got to tell you, I really like the GP systems. The system, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking more on the, as an honor, you get to ride in your home country. Like Greg didn't get to do that on a world level, if you know what I mean. And but yeah, I mean that's cool to hear about Wembley. I mean, Wembley. I went to the old Wembley. It was massive, and it was, to imagine a speedway track in there would have been insane. I'd never seen it, but we have got Charlesy back.
My God.
I'll just bring Charlesy back in now. Let's see if we can hear him. Can we hear you?
Trusty headphones, laptop.
Look, they're green too. They're green. You got your light in the back. They're good.
Well, wow, color coordinated, if nothing else, on my birthday, Bruce.
I didn't know it was your birthday, Charlesy. You never mentioned it.
Yeah, it's my birthday today. Sorry, I forgot to mention it.
So we got a question here. Sorry, we got one from Joe Parsons, actually. So Joe's asking, can you tell the story about the time you left your passport at home and you had to ride in Europe? And I think he mentioned earlier that you was with Pete Adams.
Yeah, and again, okay, we're behind the iron wall. So Smokin' Joe, that's what I call Joe Parsons. It's been his nickname for me forever. Smokin' Joe, what a great guy. So yeah, I think this was, so I was with Pete Adams. Pete Adams was my manager the last, I think, 3 years that I was in England. And he was also Cradley Heath's team manager. Prior to that, he was Ollie Olsen's. I got to tell you, he was a great manager. He did wonders for me, and he was such a straight shooter, and he didn't bullshit around at all. So, it's funny because one of your earlier questions, do you remember me 25 years ago? Well, I mean, I remember that night because I was in the boot of his car because I forgot my passport. So he put me in the boot, and we crossed immigration line, and I could have been shot that night the way it was back in those days, right? I mean, they used to be there with guns in hand and, because it's behind the Iron Curtain. Well, and I can't remember what race we were going to, but he got me across, and I was okay, but I'll never forget that night.
And then you had to go back doing the same way, didn't you?
Had to go back the same way. Yeah.
I think everyone's got one of those stories, Bruce, where you forgot something on a travel to Europe, your passport, and sneaking on the ferry and hopping in the back of a van. And
it is surprising. I spoke to someone the other day, and they said that that Lee Adams had to do it a few times, where they used to put him under the seat in the back of the van. And then the boys used to sit on it. So then when they came and checked the van, no, there's no one in there because obviously he sat on top of the seat. And Lee was actually underneath the thing. Crazy.
Yes, because Jerry, even when I first got here, Australians needed a visa for France, even though they were only transiting through it. So it was a big cost as well. You had to go to London and get a French visa just to drive to Poland. And if you wanted to go the quick way, you'd have to also get a Czech visa as well, Czech Republic visa. As well, or if you didn't want to get the Czech visa, you'd have to go the long way up via Hanover and all around, and then down like into Rybnik if you wanted to be really tight, not get two visas. Thankfully, that's all stopped now, and then the introduction of cheap flights have stopped those 21-hour drives, and and things like that. But I think they made it really as well. I miss those long trips in the van where you're going through 5 different countries to get somewhere. I think it was really good, a really good part of the sport.
I remember back in the day when we would travel, even from America to England, we would take our motors that we loved and we would put them in the overhead. Literally, the 500cc Wesy, we would put them in the overhead. You can't even get a motor near that airplane anymore, you know? Yeah, we would land and they go, I'll tell you the biggest problem, when we'd land in Germany, and I was, like I said, I was with PC a lot most weekends, and actually Michael Lee too. Michael was racing a lot of the same events that we were. I don't know what it was, but every time they'd pick us up, whether it be in a small aircraft, because we would land, I was racing on a Saturday night, so was PC at Bellevue, I think, and Michael was Kings Lynn. We would have to get on a plane in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and we would land in Germany and hightail it, or they'd fly us in a helicopter, get to the track to make it on time for the race on a Sunday. And it was like the freaking guys that used to pick us up were out of there. I think they wanted to show us that they could go fast. And of course, the motorways, you could haul ass anyway. Oh my God, I've never been so scared in my life. I mean, and they were freaking in and out of traffic. And if it was a helicopter, I thought I had balls back in those days. But when I'd get with those guys, man, I was scared to death, you know. But it was fun.
The only time I've been scared was I went with Rerun Productions to do Lee Adams' farewell in Lesno. And we got picked up from the hotel in the morning. It was me, Chris Holder, Troy Batchelor, I think, was in the car as well. These guys were used to it, flying in and getting lifts to the airports. But it's 5 a.m, foggy, and this bloke's doing 100 miles an hour down a single carriageway. And I don't know how Chris and all that slept, but I couldn't sleep. It was bonkers.
Yeah.
Mate. Bonkers.
No thanks. I'm way too old for that now. Way too old.
Yeah. There's a guy that Joe uses who picks up everyone from the airport. If you go and stay at Joe's house, they call him Schumacher. And he's like this big Polish guy, doesn't speak a word of English, and he's non-stop on the gas all the way. He's a star. We've got a question here saying, any urges to get back on a bike and have a skid? have you ever had an urge to get back on a bike?
You know, I have so many friends that even like to still get on dirt bikes, you know, and after I retired years later, I traveled with my boys a lot. I mean, racing motocross, then to a lot of the Baja races. And, you know, it just, I think it just burnt me out because I don't have any desire to even, I have a dirt bike, but I don't think I've been on it in probably 2 years. And I'm okay not riding it. I would much rather be in a boat and sitting in the water and just relaxing. I mean, our business is doing really well and it's kicking my ass, you know, because that's what it does. And of course it means a lot to me. I have, 23 employees that, I care about tremendously. So I just, for me, I'm okay not riding. As far as the Speedway bike, I don't know if I could fit into any leathers anymore. That's for sure. I actually lost a lot of weight, but I'm okay not doing it. I enjoy watching the young kids do circles. That's for sure.
I reckon a exhibition ride at Cardiff with you, Herbie Hancock, maybe Sudden Sam, and chuck a Rocket Pocket Ronnie Corey in there or something, and have an old Team America do some laps.
Oh, that'd be good entertainment for you, wouldn't
it? Yeah. I'll be up in the box somewhere looking down, having a laugh.
Yeah.
And I'll be in the back watching those guys.
A couple of questions as well. We all know, but just explain your business to the viewers as well. Just had Andy Hopkins just a bit curious about what your business is.
my dad years ago in the early 50s started a concrete cutting company, and it actually became the largest in the United States. What we do is we cut concrete, we core holes in buildings in concrete, and we demolish, with certain types of equipment like backhoes or excavators.
And with permission, I take it.
Pardon me? Yeah.
Yeah.
And with permission, you don't just knock buildings down.
No,
for no reason.
Some I wouldn't mind, but so my parents, after I lost my mom and dad in the airplane crash back in 1975, it was in the will to sell the company to the actual vice president at the time, who is an amazing guy, and we did that per my father's request, because we were kids and there was no way we could run a business that had close to 150 employees at the time. So and I started there as a young age, learning how to saw concrete. Even before I was racing, my dad and mom said, like I told our kids, you're either going to go to school or you're going to work. You're not going to sit on your ass. And even when I was racing Speedway, when my dad was alive, he said, this isn't going to be your long-lived sort of career. It's going to be short-lived in all reality. There's a lot of guys that can race until they're 63, like Bobby Schwartz, or actually ride at 63.
Yeah,
So,
different.
So, I always remembered him saying that. And so I learned the business a little bit. Then I got away from it and was so directed in Speedway. And then after that, into television. Well, after television and racing boats with my best buddy, Dennis Ogalis, my kids were young and I had to make a living. And I certainly wasn't going to do it with TV. It was a good living while I was single. And then I got married as well, which was absolutely wonderful. So we started our own company. My youngest son, Connor, everybody knows about it. I was managing a same sort of company as this. They were based out of San Diego, and I ran the company out of the Inland Empire. And Connor was working for me at the time, and for public works, we don't do residential. It's really commercial, big stuff. Connor was working on the freeway that night, and sorry, man. So he was.
Sorry, Bruce.
The freeway was completely closed down, and a drunk driver went through the barricades and struck and killed Connor. So after that, my wife and I said, we're gonna start our own company, in which we did, which was about 8 years ago, and we named it after Connor. It's Connor Concrete Cutting and Coring, and really well, and we have great employees. I actually have Greg's sister, Carrie Hancock. She's in here working for us, and Greg's niece, little Emily.
Oh, wow.
Papalardo, she works for us, and we love them. They do a great job. So, so that's how we started Connor Concrete Cutting, my wife and I, and the company's doing real well.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to Connor as well.
Listen, last night, Midlow, Neil Middleditch, got on Messenger, and we weren't quite sure, what we're going to speak about Connor, and we all know the tragic circumstances around that. But Midlow, Midlow said one of the best memories he has of you, Bruce, is being at a GP, and you and Mark Laram embracing after he just lost his boy as well, mate. And look, I got shivers now. Like, it's, I couldn't imagine what you've gone through, and same with everyone that loses a child, mate. But what you've done in his name's remarkable, and I bet he's looking down proud as punch that Dad's got the Connor flag flying, bud.
Yeah, that was at Torrin, and that's the first time I saw Mark. And, you know, there's been so much outreach from people that are so kind to us. And, you know, it's okay to talk about it. You know, it helps a lot now, you know. Do I have a bit of guilt because I'm the one that sent Connor out that night to work? Absolutely. Connor really wanted to work that night because it was night and OT overtime. But when I got to talk to Mark, you know, I can talk to a lot of people that feel for what we have gone through. But when you speak, and I don't mean this in a bad way, when you speak to somebody that has been through the same thing, I can't begin to tell you how much more it means to you because they've experienced the same exact thing. I mean, we're not supposed to, you know, go before our kids. Connor was 21 years old. He was the youngest. And to get that phone call at 11 o'clock at night, I was sleeping, and my wife was downstairs and my daughter was. My other two boys, Ryan lived in San Diego and Devin was in LA. I got the phone call from one of my tractor operators, said, you know, Connor's been struck. Well, I think for the most part, I had this denial in my mind. I mean, I just got up, I went down, I yelled down to my wife. I said, hey, Connor's been hit on the freeway. Never in a million years did I think it was as bad as it was. And she says, what happened? What happened? Well, I immediately hung up from my operator, went down, and I grabbed her. It was only literally maybe a 30-minute drive from our house, and we were hauling ass, and the other kids were coming from different directions. And I didn't want to lift up the phone and call my operator again. I felt this denial in me that I don't want anything bad. So I kept thinking to myself, oh, he's going to be okay. Maybe he's got a broken leg. So I was hauling ass on the freeway, and my wife told me to slow down, but I was in shock, big time shock. So I lift up the phone, and I called my operator again. I says, hey, how's Connor doing? And he said that he didn't make it. And you know, and my wife and my daughter sitting there, and then we had to call the other kids, and we get to the site, and of course he's covered in a blanket, and we start running to him, and the California Highway Patrol stops us because it's now considered a crime scene because the guy that hit him was a drunk driver. So we got there about 11 o'clock, and we weren't able to say goodbye to him until 6 a.m. And to see him, you know, to see them load my son up into a refrigerated truck was, you know, devastating. It's a huge life changer for all of us, especially the kids and all of my wife and our family. And, you know, we're so strong against, you know, drinking and driving and idiots that get behind the wheel and idiots that get in the car with somebody, that we're hoping our message gets across to those people that it's so easy to lift up the phone and call an Uber or get a ride somehow. But you know, our lives will never be the same. It's, you know, even when it comes to family pictures, it's really, really difficult for us.
Yeah, I see you got his bike in the background, mate. That looks absolutely mint.
You know, it's that's his 85cc. His junior and a good friend of ours, two of them, Donnie Odom and Andy Johnson, sponsored Connor when he was racing motocross, and Connor loved it. And Doug Nickel, an old Speedway rider, called him and he said, "Hey, I know where that bike is if you want it." So I was able to get it, and a friend of ours restored it for me, and it goes amazing on display at the Connor Cup. The Connor Cup's a big race that we do every year now, and it's actually supposed to be tomorrow night. And it's canceled. Not canceled, it's postponed. And it goes on display there, or it goes in my office here. It stays here. So, Yeah.
Oh, it's just it resonates, doesn't it? It looks so nice, and with his helmet and the little suit there, and I guess you're still working with him in some spiritual way there every day, Bruce.
Yeah, and the company's named after him. It was really difficult for us when we first started, just because people would call and just say his name.
Yeah.
But now we have such a great feeling about it that we feel as if he's looking down on us saying thanks, and people understand what happened, and safety is so important for all of our employees and everybody else in the freeway, that we ensure that in our employees.
Let's make this a bit happy now, and appreciate you sharing the stories. But the blonde bombshell, I used to call you. You're still doing a bit with your hair now, but I think Jerry's got some photos that might take you back to your male modeling days, Bruce, which I think the women were tuning in. There, look at this. Look at this. Hey?
Nice shorts. Nice
what
shorts.
Are you? I tell you what, we've got an extra follower tonight. My mother-in-law just commented, Leslie Hall. I went up to see her earlier, and she says, "Oh, you doing your show tonight?" I said, "You watching?" She said, "No." I said, "Well, I got this guy on, Bruce Penhall." She went, "I'll have a look." So she's come on to have a look. So hi, mother-in-law. Thank you for my presence. There she is, and my sister-in-law's had a comment as well. So to check out the Love Boat himself. What was that like, the Love Boat, Bruce?
It was amazing. They all were. I mean, gosh, I used to go into the makeup room because they weren't looking at me. I'd work with some beautiful ladies.
Get out of it.
I'd walk into a makeup room and I'd be stunned at what I saw. And it's not like they wanted to cover up a lot back in those days. It was like they walk in and I thought, I get paid to do this stuff. I mean, it was very cool. Very cool.
You're a bronze medallion, weren't you, back then? Hey?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'm not much for talking about myself. I'm not, but
there's plenty of women on this on that view our show that throughout the week we've had messages, and even in my birthday messages from people today. Thank you for doing the show, and especially tonight with Bruce and Love Arts and all sorts of stuff. So you've upped the ante for us tonight, fella.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry for interrupting your birthday wishes.
Hey, this is a really good present. We spoke to you. I spoke to you last week when we were trying to get you from your lake house. When I did the Sam Ermolenko farewell for Rerun Productions at Wolverhampton, and I was like a kid in a sweet shop. I couldn't wait to finally meet you, because to have that sort of conversation with you at length and meet someone you idolize was fantastic. And listen, it's no different tonight on my birthday. It's actually a bit of a present for you to come on and talk to us and share the stories that you've got, mate. It's been amazing to see how many people were looking forward to hearing the retro side of things. And I said to Jerry earlier, we've got loads of questions. There was never going to be any chance we can get through everything with you tonight.
That's because I talk too freaking much. That's why.
Well, your first answer was 15 minutes long.
My wife said to me, "Are you done talking or what?" I said, "You asked me the question. I got to answer."
Yeah.
No, it's funny you said that about Sam's going away meeting. I remember freezing my ass off on the way there, and it started pitching down rain. I'm thinking, thank God I don't have to ride tonight.
I think we had a bit of snow, didn't we?
Yeah, snow. That's right.
I went to that meeting. It was at Wolverhampton. Yeah, I was there.
Welcome back, Jerry.
I was there for that one.
Oh. Yeah. I was in the pits, Jerry. I was important.
How old were you then, Jerry?
I don't know. I wasn't born when you won your world titles, put it that way.
I was. I remember it. And I remember you coming up to me, Bruce, and putting a dummy back in my mouth. Yeah.
That was the thing back in those days. I always have loved kids, and I couldn't wait to have my own kids, and I have a grandson now that Oh my gosh, I love seeing him and being with him, but I also love saying, "Here you go, time to go back to your mom and dad. It's been fun. Go home now."
Well, Bruce, it's not only my birthday today. I share it with a very special lady, Monster Joe's very own wife, Daria Parsons.
Yeah,
Happy
Daria.
birthday to you, Daria.
They're out.
Oh,
they're out
Daria's.
Yeah, it's her birthday. She shares it with me. Oh, go on, I share it with her. Go on.
Yeah. No, Joe messaged me before they were going for dinner or something, so he said he would try and message later and watch in. So.
Oh, perfect. I went to a couple of good restaurants with Spock and Joe and Torrin. It was great.
Yeah, great city, isn't it? We're starting to get a few shout outs. Now, can you say hello to Karen Miller, Bruce? I think she's one of your secret little admirers.
There's a few of those.
I got to watch doing that. There was, it was a long time ago. I had a good time. Hi, Karen. How are you? Thanks for watching.
Adrian Smart, no cake for me, mate. I got to spend all my money on my main present, which is more than suffice.
So we have got one here saying, "Do you remember anything from this?" And this is a photo from the Centre Green.
Yes.
In
Reading?
79.
That's a Reading.
Yeah. I thought it was Reading. Yeah.
Yep.
That's two times Reading's made the Speedway chat show.
Yeah, and I think I crashed. My hand fell off the handlebar in the last heat. That was really important. It was so wet. We didn't have grips back in those days. It used to be what they called elastoplast with rubber bands on them, and it was It was wet as can be. Yeah, and I crashed last. It was a good one though. Hey, they don't ride too much in the rain these days. I remember that in England. We rode a lot in the rain.
Yeah, I think even in the late 90s when I first hit the shores, we'd turn up in Australia. If it sprinkles a bit of rain, they call it off. And I remember getting to the UK and thinking, they're not running this. And then they get a blade out and blade it and a beyond. But slowly over the years, I think there was pressure to get meetings called off because of the financial impact and riders traveling and things like that. But it's obviously it's becoming an economical game financially as well, and rider safety is paramount as well. But with these airbags, I don't know, Bruce, what do you think of the airbags, mate? You were hard enough, weren't you?
I remember Sydney Showground, a concrete
wall
there, and the track was probably 10 feet wide. I'm a fan of the airbags, man. I think it's got to help a little bit of the impact, I don't know a lot about them, but I can tell you a lot of the fences around, we're riding on the, Greyhound tracks were just outside of our Speedway tracks, and those fences didn't budge an inch, they hurt. I hit them quite a few times. Absolutely.
Speaking about the Sydney Showground, you would have raced against Jim Aries then.
Not so much. It was like the Billy Sanders and Phil Crump, Crumpy was awesome around there. Billy was really good around the showgrounds, but I loved Aussie, man. I loved, staying in Brizzy. One of my places I was there for 2 months was right on Bondi Beach. We didn't have topless beaches in America back in those days. You kidding? I'd walk out my door and they're topless. I was like,
they're not topless at Bondi, mate. They just free for all, aren't they?
Yeah, I paid to get this or to watch this. Though it was great.
The good old beaches. Have we got that video, Jerry, of where we can't quite tell whether Bruce was being played by a stuntman? We wanted to ask.
No, I played that when you were gone. When you went, we played that.
That was the stuntman.
Well, welcome back, Charlie.
Yeah. So the same guy who commented before with the photo, he's also sent this one, and apparently this is his dad in his replica 1981 World Final race jacket, and
his jacket with his Bruce Penhall.
Yeah,
jacket.
So the Bruce Penhall is jacket,
okay.
And he's got a race jacket as well, but apparently it doesn't fit anymore. So he sent that one in as well. So there's that.
I remember those jackets back in the day. They were made in the UK too. I love those jackets, and a lot of my race jackets are at the Penhall Museum. Andy Hill has that, and he's still in the Midlands. He's got a lot of model stuff.
Someone mentioned there as well, Jerry, if you had to pick one of the world finals, Wembley or the Coliseum, which one tops it?
We answered that one as well.
Oh, it only just come up.
Okay, but Bruce can say it again. Go again, Bruce. Go again.
So the first one is huge, and at Wembley, right? I mean, it just doesn't get any better, I think, than Wembley. But then to be able to come to the United States, it was my second one back to back, and I don't think it will ever be in the States again. To win that one, it was huge as well. And then, of course, to retire. But I would have to say Wembley, to me, would be the number one world individual final for me, just because of the atmosphere.
It was
so we actually have
stadium.
We've got one race here from the Wembley World Final, and just so people who, I'm sure a lot of these people are going to remember it.
That's only out of 4 over there. Hands is out of 2, and I lifted a little bit, but I had to move Hands out of the way right there.
Yeah, God.
Yeah.
God, you went from nowhere to somewhere in 15 meters there.
Yeah, but it seemed like Ollie had eyes in the back of his head. And you'll see here coming up that I actually, when I went back underneath him to pass him, I rubbed my front wheel on his rear wheel. I'll show you here coming up. See, he pulls on me there because I lifted a little bit. And I'm just trying to action and get back up to him. I'm just a tad bit out of the dirt. See, he's having a look. He gets back to the inside. Okay, now I think this is where I come back underneath him, and you'll see me to try to move my tap the front wheel right there and right there twice. And it doesn't. Wow. We both actually moved out and left. Yeah.
Crazy.
This is old school. This is Speedway as I remember it.
Yeah.
I'm 44 today, Bruce. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday for the 20th time.
Jeez, Penhall. Who's this guy?
There we go.
Oh, that's amazing.
That was an amazing heat, and same with the one with Tommy Knudsen. Oh my God, that was incredible too. I think I beat him by an inch or two.
Tommy Knudsen, he growing up as a kid, always got told he had the quickest bike in a straight line. As in terms of every rider wanted to be on a Tommy Knudsen. The engines he had were super quick in a straight line. I think you don't hear that so much now. I think Leon Madsen has had it recently in the Grand Prix where people have been questioning the engine he's running because his speed is, marginally quicker. And in Grand Prix to have that margin, you go a long way. But back in the day, do you remember all the hype around, Ollie and Ivan and things like that with having quick stuff or maybe not being legal or anything like that? Was there any sort of stories like that?
You know what? Yeah, there was a lot of hype, and it's we didn't have like nearly the setup as what the riders have these days. They have suspension, and their setup is totally different than what we had. It's a matter of getting the wheels in line where the dirt was. There was a lot more dirt on the tracks back in those days as there is now. Or there isn't now. I rode a couple of those laydowns a few years ago, and man, they run up. The revs are so high, and if they hook up, they're going to launch you. But there was always guys that had fast bikes. I always thought Michael Lee's bikes were tremendously fast back in those days. He was on Jawas back in those days. But I'll tell you what, our Eddie Bull Westlakes were incredible. We loved them. And I loved my Eddie motors. They were steady Eddie motors. They were great.
Yeah, Alan Ross had mentioned that last week, didn't he, Jerry, about, I don't know if it was off show or on the show, about the laydowns, the baby engines now, the baby offsets. They rev that hard, and if they pick up anything, they spit you. the tracks aren't half as grippy and as they used to be, so you can get away with it a bit more. But yeah, he mentioned that as well.
Yeah, for us it was more throttle control.
Curry.
You know, because you hear the start lines now, those motors are pinned. You know, we couldn't pin it because we'd spin up a little bit too much. So it was all about throttle control, hooking the thing up. I think we learned that a lot from Ivan Major. You know, it was getting those wheels in line and hooking the thing up. So, you know, so you're going fast and straight. Always when you're completely sideways, the motors are spinning, you know. So get those wheels in line and hook up and get down the straightaways.
Yeah, have you seen as Michael Lee on the long track? I love watching those videos even today. The legs back there. Him and PT. Oh my God, the legs back past the back wheel. That's you know, I don't know whether it's isolation or not, but me and YouTube have a pretty good connection at the moment, and it's Speedway classics and you know, long track from the past, and just, you know, Gerd Riss. I remember seeing Gerd Riss when I first come to the continent. Geez, that guy was quick. Oh my God.
Back in our day, it was Egon Muller.
Egon Muller. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And he had a style going on, didn't he, as well?
He had those big eight bars, you know, and stuff, and he'd be tucked underneath it. I can't say a word about it because he was really fast. You know, I struggled on the long track a little bit. My deal was speed. I loved racing it, but I don't think I was that good. I think I made one world championship, and I was a reserve.
There's a lot of boys like that, isn't there, Jerry, as well?
Yeah. No, I watched Calvin Tatum at the Oval Trader, and it was a rough as track. And I remember watching him just wheelie all the way down both straights just to stop the how rough the track was, you know. And insane.
Yeah.
Wrist was there on that day as well.
It's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? The old long track, different kettle of fish.
To me, the rough tracks were the grass tracks. That was really difficult for me. I mean, there were some rough grass tracks in my mind. To the grass track racers, you know, it was the typical weekend grass track. But to me, it's like, shit, man, I got to hang on and go. And then, of course, I got to get back on an airplane because I would usually have a Monday meeting. I know back in those days, Reading was really the Monday track. But in saying that, because it was the Monday track, there was a lot of open meetings on the Monday at the different tracks. So I'd come back after a Sunday race and have to get back on a motorcycle that night. It was good.
No, I did that. And it's funny you mentioned Reading being a Monday track. Craig Watson, who I mechanic for when I first come over, he was quite talented at long track. He's a couple of times Australian champion, etc. We did a meeting at Parkham, or maybe in Ludwigslust in Germany, and we had a 10 o'clock in the morning bank holiday Monday Reading meeting, and then back in the afternoon at Newport, which was his home club. So I think we finished the long track on the Sunday afternoon, handed me the keys, and he said, we've got to get to Reading we're racing at 10 a.m. So I've done the night shift all through the night, and beholds to me, I'm thinking I'm not ever going to make this be able to spanner in the meeting. But lucky enough, a young guy called Craig Goff come down from Newport, and he done the tools at Reading because I slept the whole meeting at Reading at the 10 o'clock meeting, trying to get from the continent back to a UK meeting back before the flights, and you know, when vans were around was just insane. It was, but that's. Like, I'll go back and I'll say it, that those were the memories that were made. That's what made Speedway so exciting for me. The days on end, track to track, sleeping in a van, driving across the continent. And now it's easy for these boys, isn't it? You know, an early clock flight, get picked up in a limo, 100-mile. They've got it easy, Bruce.
You know, I remember the back-to-back days of racing, meaning morning and night, were bank holiday Mondays.
Yeah,
that's for us back in those days. There was always 2 meetings a day. Morning there'd be a race, then we'd go somewhere at night race. But they were good. They paid well.
Midlow's watching. Do you want to say anything to Midlow? He just messaged road trips are the best.
Wait a second. Is he skiing?
Yeah, he loves a comment, old Midlow.
That's a while ago. That one. That's when he
I
had
can't believe
hair.
he doesn't have a cocktail in his hand or a beer.
That's skis.
Oh, I guarantee he's got alcohol in his hands somehow.
He's a great guy, man. He really. I didn't get to stay there much. I stayed there a few times, but yeah, Neil's a great guy. Midlow's a good dude, man.
Yeah, you might have been back at his house. Nothing's changed. He still runs analog Wi-Fi for broadband.
Yeah.
he struck gin and tonic. He's on. He reckons. There we go. So what do you got planned for? Have you got anything plans to come to the UK, or did you touch on that when I had no microphone, Jerry?
He was here a couple of months ago. He said.
Yeah, I was there. I stayed with PC and Angie. It was Betty Bull's funeral. Got to see quite a few of the guys here. It was pretty cool. That was just before this coronavirus crap, you know. So I don't have any plans as of yet, but I would still like to make a trip back there and say hello to everybody because it was such a big part of my life. I flew out. I was there literally 24 hours and came straight back home.
If you can do it when the British Speedway Grand Prix is on at Cardiff, I'm 15 miles from that place, so you've got a place to stay here because obviously hotels are dear, mate. I'll be on the sofa. You can have the bed.
Hey,
Bruce Penhall, on bombshell.
Hey, do you promise you won't talk so much though? Can I get some sleep at least?
I can't promise things I can't live to, Bruce.
Time. Come on.
But yeah, if you come over, mate, we definitely got to catch up, and I know the people watching would love to see you, and I'm sure Joe will get you on the monster rig and have a bit of a chit chat to the thousands of people. Have you seen the monster rig at Cardiff? Oh, you've never been to Cardiff, have you?
I haven't been to Cardiff. I'd love right. It was unbelievable for me, but Cardiff, because of the British fans, you know, and they mean so much to me, and the atmosphere, I can imagine.
Well, the fan zone. Last year I went and Jerry snuck me onto the monster rig, and what a buzz that place is. The thousands of people getting to hear from the riders and stuff. I'm pretty sure Smoke and Joe will hook you up.
Yeah,
I think that we should speak to Joe and do a live chat show from the monster rig next year if we're still going.
Look at Jerry setting the bar.
Yeah.
So is the monster rig where they do the autograph signing and stuff, all the riders? Is that that's badass. It's cool.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yeah. It turned it into a nightclub at the after party. They had one at Melilla in Sweden in 2012. It was a bonkers after party.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just think Monster have stepped it up, haven't they? They've made it a global sport, a global brand.
Sure have, man.
Yeah, just putting a spin on it. Fantastic.
Yeah, they've been like that. I mean, even when my kids are racing, I mean, and Smoke and Joe is behind us, and it's a great brand, great company to work for and be a part of.
Yeah, fantastic.
So we spoke just before we went live about Joe, and mentioned, like how you know Joe, because I don't know if you've seen last week we posted a video that I filmed a video with Joe in Torren. It's a few years ago now, but he talks about his involvement with Monster and coming on board with Speedway, and he mentioned that you were a big part of getting involved with Speedway. All those years ago when Monster initially got involved. So, like, how did that come about? How did you know Joe and things like that? Because if it wasn't for you, in a way, maybe Monster wouldn't have the involvement that they do today.
Well, I don't know that. I think that, Joe is a huge fan of Speedway, obviously. We had a lot of conversation back in the day, and we spent a lot of time together, even at the races. He would be with my kids and us at some of the big races. And, my entire rig was wrapped, Monster wrap, which was it had just really started back in those days. So people used to look at it and, they'd be handing out Monster drinks at our rig. It was really cool. But, I think during our day and age in Britain, and of course even in America, Speedway was huge in the mid 70s, early 70s to the mid 80s. I mean, the talent that was racing, if you didn't transfer from race in America on that Friday night at Costa Mesa, you would have to take a week off because there was so many good riders. So, man, you wanted to transfer, and plus the money was big. There was usually on a night at Costa Mesa, 10,000 people, 10,000 supporters, and the money. And we used to get 30% of the overage money to the riders. And I was like 16, 17. I'd sometimes bring home checks like $5,000 on a Friday night, not even including what I'd earned that night. This was from the overage. And, it was guys like Harry Oxley, the Godfather. He was big to Speedway, and the crowds were huge. The other tracks didn't have the people that Costa Mesa did, but we still rode 5 nights a week, Ventura on a Tuesday, Wednesday at San Bernardino, and before that Bakersfield, Irwindale on a Thursday night. The list went on, and we just loved it. But then, like I said, when I went 100, my schedule was 150 nights out of the year of racing, and so it was so big back then. And Joe would ask me questions and I would truthfully answer them. And I think he always has just been a fan of Speedway, and what his involvement has been with Speedway has certainly helped keep it on the map in a big way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Look at the time, Jez. I told you,
right,
another one.
We'll wrap it up, I think. But Bruce, it's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah,
it's not going to be the last time, Bruce. I'm going to get you back on for your birthday.
I'm sure I'm not boring you guys.
What's that?
Are you sure I'm not boring you guys? Or
no,
absolutely not. Absolutely not. People are still commenting, so that's all good.
This is music to everyone's ears, and that's the thing about Speedway and what we're trying to do is the storytelling. You can ask the normal questions, Bruce, but it's the stories that go with it and the insights, and you have brought 100% of an insight. You're a gentleman of a bloke, and you shared touching, emotional stories tonight, which we thank you, and our hearts are with you every day of the week, mate. Just an honor to have you on. It's the best present I could have had in terms of Speedway, buddy. I really mean that.
No, thank you so much. And there's a lot of stories I can't even tell.
Yeah. What did Darcy say? Keep them in the basement.
Yeah. Back in those days. That's all I'm telling you. All right.
Imagine how big Darcy's basement would have to be. Or Midlow's basement. He's still on as well, Midlow.
Yeah.
Oh, devil.
Listen, Bruce, before
you guys very much. I appreciate it.
My mum was a big fan. She told me the other day when she was 12 years old, she had a poster of you and a poster of Tony Briggs. And so if you could just say hello to my mum. My mum's called Jeanette. Just say hey.
Hi, Jeanette. How are you? You know what I used to do on those posters? I used to write on them, best wishes. I didn't recognize you with your clothes on. I swear. I won't say that to your mom.
Yeah.
Go on. Thank God. I was wondering where this was going to go. I was like, no, it's my mum.
I was wondering where it was going to go when you said when my mum was 12.
That's it. Yeah. My lips are sealed. Can't say anymore.
Yeah.
Listen, brilliant. Bruce. If you're in the UK, mate, we definitely need to catch up. You've definitely got a place to stay at mine if you ever make it to Cardiff, mate. And the hotels won't take the original Love Bloke guy.
That's very kind of you guys, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, the pleasure's all ours, honestly, mate. It's been a fantastic show. Sorry I had a bit of headphone issues, but we'll definitely get you back on at some stage if you're up for it, mate.
Great. Sounds great, you guys. And thanks for everyone that's followed today. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers, Bruce.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Wow.
God,
That
bloody
was
headphones. I told you that we should stick to these ones.
yeah, they're the better ones.
That happens.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I think the big announcement that we was going to have, I think we should just leave it for now. We've gone quite a bit over the time,
Yeah, gone a bit over,
and it's not 100% sure what we want to do. I mean, we'll sort of say what it is, but we'll go into more detail once we know more about it. So the general gist of it, what we're looking to do is we want to get the Speedway community behind us, and we want to build a bike. Now, we're speaking with the guys from Team GB, and we're going to find a young rider, 15, 16-year-old rider that has got a lot of talent, maybe not as much funds. And then this bike will be donated to a rider from the Speedway community. We're at this moment just looking to, one, fund it, if that's through a crowdfunder or if it's through a sponsorship or whatever. But we're going to look at how we can make that work and give back to Speedway. And, you know, hopefully that person can be brought on and do great things that maybe, you know, I remember when I was riding, there was a lot of people with lots of money, and there was also people that used to turn up with bikes in the back of their car and they put every penny into it, you know. And let's
and
see
also
how the community can help, and it's
yeah.
sort of it's a feel-good thing. I really like the idea.
And the idea about it is the input to the bike building process would come from the likes of Greg Hancock, Ty Wolford, and other riders that we can video whilst building this bike, and then perhaps do bikes down the road. But some way that our followers and us can sort of all chip in and get together and support the grassroots, which without grassroots, there isn't going to be Speedway, is there? So, look, we are enthusiasts, and a lot of this is Jerry's idea with the bike. I back it 100%. I think crowdfunding might be the way to go if everyone can do a little bit. So we're just trying to finalize with different people around different products and things. So once we know a bit more, we'll try to get everyone on board and get a bike to a deserving young kid that might not otherwise be able to be in that position. And there's plenty of them. So Mental Awareness Week just passed, Jerry. So I hope everyone else at home is well and getting through this. Speedway supporters support line as well, which we get behind. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for all my birthday wishes. My Indian has just turned up, so I'm so excited. Chicken Madras. And we will make an announcement soon about Friday. Thanks everyone. What a guest, Bruce Penhall. Sorry about my issues. We'll leave it there. Good night all. Stay safe. See you on Friday.
See you Friday. Adios, guys. Thanks very much.
Adios.
See ya. Bye.